Michael, first, your take on the transfer window. I suspect you've not had a huge amount of involvement in it this week, but you've got 3 players in, a few have left. What's your move? What's your making of it all?
3 really good players that come in that were targets for the club. I know the I know the 3 players well, so we'll do it in order if you like. With Leo coming in, he's had the most time with the group. I think he's a player that I saw break through in Scotland originally, and obviously come down to Leeds and do well. He's had a nice loan at Motherwell. He's highly thought of in his international setup as well, and he gives us real good balance. Left-footed defenders, centre-backs who can play full-back are hard to find. So we think we've signed a really good player there at the right moment. Romain obviously had a really excellent academy journey with Spurs before going over to Standard Liège, and he's a player that's been on the club's radar for a while. He comes in, gives us good versatility in wide areas. And Callum Styles I think, is an excellent football player that will really benefit the club. Obviously played number of times for his national team, Hungary, will go to the Euros as a midfielder, but can also play as a wing-back and full-back. So in terms of the ins, really positive. And the boys that have gone out, I feel that it was part of their plan ultimately to go out and play more in the second half of the season. And certainly in Nectar and Ellie's situation, I feel that they're players that we've really got high hopes for the future. In terms of Jay, he's just missed a lot of football and could do with playing. So all in all, it was busy. And yeah, positive. We now move forward.
Christian was quite relaxed about not getting a 9 and a striker in. And bearing in mind, your thoughts over the last few weeks about the 3 that you've got here now, and how relaxed are you about that?
Well, relaxed is a big word for managers when you're chasing and the expectation of getting in the playoffs and then pushing on from there. So, look, Mason played ever so well last week and scored a goal. Naz has done well. I think Naz also can play off the left. If you asked him maybe what his main position is, he'd probably say as a left forward coming inside. Scored a couple of goals there for the second team earlier in the week as well. So look, we'll keep working. Semedo is a player that I think we should have high hopes for in the future. He's obviously adjusting to the country and he's had a couple of fitness issues recently in terms of carrying 1 or 2 knocks that we've had to be careful with, hence why he didn't play in the B team game against Leeds. But he's a player we've got high hopes for. And it's a collective thing, the team score goals, and at the weekend we had 3 different goal scorers, so that's a good sign for us all.
Because there's no number 9 coming in, and these 3 now know that that's the case, it's up to them to stake their claim. That could actually be a positive for them, couldn't it? Now that they know they're the ones that the burden rests on their shoulders. Yes, that's a pressure, but it's also a good pressure.
Yeah, and listen, for them, of course, that it's great for them on a personal level. Now they've got to own it, and the team has. But Paddy's back in training will help us in that area as well. Abdullah Bar, we brought Romain in, so I'm comfortable with our options. It's the team. The team need to step up. I think sometimes being a striker for Sunderland's been difficult. Do we cross the ball enough? At times do we try to score the perfect goal with a lot of intricate play, and so it's important we feed the number 9, regardless of who's in there and who's got the shirt. It's important they get good service and get people playing close to them, and I thought last week was a step in the right direction for sure.
I mean, there's a sense of, I think in the game against Stoke, that maybe a few more shots from outside the box, a bit more of the old-fashioned wing play, trying to get the ball in to those places. That's something you've worked on, or you've had the opportunity to work on that, because you've not got the midweek games. Yeah,
for sure. We wanted to be a little bit quicker in the final third, play a little bit higher up the pitch with our forwards as well and press higher up the pitch. And I thought it was a pleasing aspect of last week's game for sure.
Big game of the weekend, obviously, with Ballard being just down the road. What are your thoughts on them and how you approach the game?
Yes, and it's an excellent game. It's a really, if you look at the last 6 games in the league and the form, we're 5th, they're 6th. So in the last 6 games, it's obviously 2 teams with the same amount of points and are riding high and have got the same ambition. We know what happened in the home game, so there's certainly an element of that we want to perform well. We'll need to as the away team against Middlesbrough. I think a good team. I think Michael Carrick has started his management career well. In the last month at home, they've played Aston Villa and narrowly lost, and played Chelsea and won a game. So I think that's a warning for how strong they are at home. But I've seen areas of them that we can exploit as well. We'll need to be at our best.
I think the fans and the players are still stung by that 4-0 game? Is it something you can use very much in the dressing room going into the game?
Yeah, each game's different. Obviously, new coach and some new players will be involved in this game, and we're living in a different moment. I think it comes down to the penalty boxes, as we've seen, in other games this year where we've been quite ruthless in games and scored goals. And you might say last weekend was a little bit like that. We took our chances and maybe Stoke didn't, and maybe in that game it wasn't a fair run of how the game was actually played between the boxes, but certainly want to show a better performance this weekend in terms of the final outcome.
Dan Ballard's on 9 yellow cards. I mean, it's a tightrope. He's going to pick up the 10th, isn't he? You've just got to be mindful of that over the next few weeks.
It took him 8 games or 7 or 8 games to get that 9th book in, so it'd be nice if he could go that long again. But no, with him and Luke O'Nien being 2 away, I think the emergence of Jensen's been really, really positive. Tim Pembele now is fit and he's playing regularly in the second team to pick up his minutes when he's not playing for us. Leo's come in and gives us that flexibility. Obviously, the reason that Callum's was delayed a little bit was obviously he had appendicitis and that's knocked it back. But we expect him back in a couple of weeks as well. So, look, as we found with the injuries we've had, Jensen's come in, and I think the last, actually every time he's played, but certainly the last couple, I think Jensen's been excellent. So he is a centre-back, so at some point in the next couple of games we're going to see him there when that booking finally comes.
And finally for me, you're obviously relieved as well that nobody was sold in the window, and that's important going forward, isn't it?
Yeah, look, every club wants to keep their best players, but I never felt at any moment that we was going to lose anybody. The boys all seem really engaged and into what we're doing, and the big one was obviously there was some noise around Clark, but every single day Jack trains ever so well and he's focused and he seems very happy here.
Michael, obviously not your first derby. Different opposition, obviously different quality opposition in Premier League. I don't know how much they didn't let you play or whether it was the atmosphere. Have you any worries about the team going into another big derby, about how they'll handle it?
Are you calling it a derby?
It's a derby.
Okay, rather you than me. No, look, it's a game against an opponent down the road. We both got the same ambitions in this season. It's 2 really good teams. As I say, in the last 6 league games, we're 5th and 6th on the form chart, so it is everything to look forward to in this game. As the away team, we're going to need to be strong defensively. Our away form is an area that we can certainly improve, and with 3 out of the next 4 league games being away from home, we're going into a period now where we're going to have to go away from home and pick up points. It's going to be important. I felt last week it was a huge team effort. I looked at the numbers back after the game in terms of the data, and it was a huge team effort last week. I felt late in the game you could see that it was quite a heavy pitch, so it's important that everybody's in. It's important that people come off the bench and play their part as well. I thought last week was much more how I want this team to play.
And how has the week been for you? A completely different week to the previous one. 3 points makes a big difference to everybody.
Yeah, of course it does. And then when you see where it takes you, and you know how hard a league it is because you're watching the other games. There's been a couple of results this week where you think, okay, it sums the league up. Some draws against teams maybe that would fancy to win and end up getting a draw, and it keeps everybody really close together. That is the Championship. That's why we love it. That's why it's so fascinating. It's a hard league to get, but the feeling coming in the building earlier this week was obviously different to the last 2 weeks. That's in every football club, of course. And I was quite calm this week because I know where we was at in terms of the window and what we were trying to do. And you're realistic. As a coach, I come in first and foremost just over a month ago or whatever it is now, 6 weeks to work with this group of players. So there was no last minute dramas or anything. I'm really focused for this game this weekend. I think it's an excellent game. It's a real tough game as well for us.
Let's say it's a derby and not have that particular debate, but do you think that games like that can set the tone perhaps more than other games?
Yeah, look, certainly it's a short drive down the road. That's a nice way to say it. It's a short drive down the road. Both teams will be at it. The 2 sets of players have got respect for each other. And certainly the assistant to Michael is Danksy, who I worked with at Aston Villa closely as well. So we know each other in that sense, in terms of the way that the coaches like to play. And as I say, we have to fully respect them because they come into our stadium early this season and took the 3 points back in a comprehensive result. So it's important that we respond this weekend. And where we are in the league, every single game now is vitally important. It's vitally important for the confidence in the building and the fan base as these games start whittling down. It's important we make sure we've got momentum going into the close of the season for sure.
Just how do you think the process of you getting to know the players and the players getting to know you is going?
Brilliant. The players have been fantastic from the first day that I come in terms of taking on the ideas. We tried to keep it very similar for them when we had so many games back to back, and obviously the big FA Cup game with Newcastle, I didn't want to change too much. Since then we've made subtle changes, and certainly at the weekend it was probably the most that we've seen in terms of the change in terms of setup in midfield and up front, and how we want to play moving forward, which I think will give us more goal threats. The one thing I've been happy with is mixing up the goal scorers a little bit the last few games. You know, the weight has not always been on Jack in the last couple of games, which I think's certainly last couple of wins, which has been important.
Michael, given that you've just had your first North East derby only about a month ago now, and we have established that this one is a derby too, what did you learn from that first one that you can take into this one?
It's really important to the people in this part of the country and our fan base. It's really important. That one was a sore one. Both games, if you like, then have been sore, haven't they? So it's important. The only way is up in terms of that then, isn't it? And this weekend in terms of our performance and our energy on the pitch and our commitment to the duels, not just our quality with the ball. You know, it's something that our team is known for in terms of some of our possession play and our dribbling and our play, certainly through the middle of the pitch in midfield. Everyone knows we're capable of playing good football, but we're capable of winning our duels and running hard and tackling. The other parts of the game, when the pitches are not so good at this time of year and the weather's not so good, you have to show other qualities as well. And that's why I was particularly pleased with some parts of last weekend's game, not just the play from the front three, because they were involved in all the goals together, so I was delighted with them, but it was the back four and the midfield behind them I was pleased with as well. So we're going to need to bring that this weekend.
And what are you expecting from Middlesbrough, given that they've just seen Morgan Rogers depart, one of their key forward men, and of course they had that disappointing exit in the League Cup?
They've had a long time to stew on that game, haven't they? Not playing last weekend, so I'm sure they'll be looking for a response. As I say, they're a good team, powerful team, play good football. They've got other players other than Rodgers that are obviously good players. I don't know with the team news because they didn't play last week, whether one or two are back from injury as well. So whatever 11 they put out, I think is a really good championship team, and it will be a real stern test for us for sure.
Okay, so just before we end, you mentioned Patrick Roberts, Michael, is he likely to be involved or just like training?
No, he'll be involved as long as he comes through training tomorrow, so he's ahead of schedule. It's important that we respect that as well, but if you ask Paddy, he's fit and ready to go.